Ladies and gentlemen and loss adjusters, thank you very much for this kind invitation to the IFAA conference. My name's John Pyall. I work for, as it says on my t-shirt, I work for Munich Re, and I'm here to talk about challenges and opportunities with regard to the new Insurtech industries and claims management in particular. Now, I'll be honest here, I'm not dressed like this because I'm now involved in the new Insurtech industries and hence I'm dressed as they do. I have actually just flown in at a special request of Paul May, straight from South Africa, and in order to give this talk today. So, without further ado, I'll start off with an example of what we're looking at from the industry itself. So here it goes. This is what you're now facing in the industry, right? This is where the industry is going. So you have to think this is what you're competing against. So that's really what you're facing now. This is where the industry's going. They want to automate, they want to use chatbots.
She's going on a trip. She started planning a while back. But right now, feels kind of rushed.
Sorry.
11 hours later.
Right. This is where we're going now. This is where insurers want to go. They want to actually reach out and move forward with AI. They want to become the leaders in their field. The problem for them at the moment, and this is actually what Insurance Nexus found, is that only 22% of insurance carriers believe they're effectively leading the market in their claims effort. That means the vast majority of us feel we're behind where we need to be, which means effectively we need to move forward. In order to move forward, we need everybody that's working with us to move forward with us. That means using AI, using technology, and actually looking at where the new Insurtech industry will drive the market. And what is the focus, weirdly, what is the focus of the Insurtechs, right? They're looking to enable the value chain rather than disrupt it, right? They're actually looking at where they can actually add value into that insurance chain. Now, within claims, that is actually quite limited at the moment, but actually it's growing because they're realizing that claims is an opportunity for them to get involved with. Tools such as fraud management tools are becoming increasingly popular to actually use AI to detect and evaluate fraud management. Areas like this are becoming more useful. Claims data evaluation tools are very popular and are driving quite significantly how insurance companies are going forward. So when working with adjusters, they are now no longer looking just at what the adjuster can add as an adjuster. They're looking to see how they can work within their whole value chain to ensure that they can do what the insurance company needs, which is to drive down their costs and to build in savings. Now, they're going to try and do this by automation, right? They're going to try and automate as much of that value chain as they can, right? Which you've got to be prepared for and see how you can actually help. Because if you don't get involved with it, the possibility is you may be left behind. So what are the new Insurtech companies offering? They're looking for a seamless customer experience, increased processing and decreased cycle times. They're looking to reduce the touch points that are involved in the marketing of claims to the customer. So they're looking not only from an underwriting point, but also where they can actually help to reduce the claims pressure points for customers. Lemonade was a classic example of that. They're trying to simplify that process for the end user so they make it easy. Now, as adjuster, you say, well, that's fine, but we're involved, say, with large and complex claims. Sorry, guys, it ain't going to be that they're just going to focus on the simple customer stuff, because that's the easiest stuff to pick up, and that's where they've started. But they will move in to the more complex, the more difficult claims, and they'll look at how they can actually work with insurance companies to make that process more effective for the company itself. Right. What areas of the insurance tech is looking at? At the moment, they're focused mainly on product and distribution. So they've gone very much how they can sell to the customer. However, over time, they're building in and looking at how they can actually change the business process, and that's working with insurers to actually see how they can integrate all of their data and make their data more effective and stopping silos within the insurance companies, right? Data mining is a classic in that regard. Claims processing software, mobile applications leveraging AI is a classic example of this. So they're looking to see how they can use chatbots, how they can use AI so that the customer gets a better experience. So I was actually, weirdly, in South Africa, I was actually talking to a third-party adjusting company, how they could exist. And I was saying, well, the obvious thing to do is link the customer to the supplier so that they know when that supplier is going to arrive. A small thing like that, by developing an app so the customer knows when the service that he's asked for is going to arrive. This was in a home and emergency product, but the same thing will apply. If the customer knows when the resolution to his problem is going to arrive, he's going to pick up the phone less, he's going to need fewer touch points, and he feels in more control of his own claim. And that's what the insurance company wants, because it's a win-win for them. The customer is happier because he knows what's going on. He's not likely to contact them so often, so therefore they have fewer touch points that they need to pay for. So therefore it's an enhanced service, but actually reduces their costs at the same time. So that's where they're looking to actually enable. And you've got to be prepared to work on that. So it's an enhanced connectivity and user experience, quicker customer responses. So in a weird way, you're getting the customer to do the work. But by getting the customer to do the work, they feel more in control of their own business, their own enterprise. And this started off with the simple gadget insurance and things like that, because like Lemonade, it was easy to do. Now it's started to go into more complex claims. So small and medium enterprises are entering their own claims into chatbots, into apps, because it's easy for them to do. They can get that notification done and it's less problematic. But also it means it becomes a seamless experience it becomes a seamless experience, and as such they actually benefit from that experience. In addition to that, they then actually go back and look at this and say, right, we know what's going on with that claim. We know who's been appointed, when they've been appointed, what they're doing at any stage in that operation. They get feedback on a regular interval, and that's what they're looking at. So the whole point is you're driving a customer responsive product, right, which allows you to have more data-driven decisions and things like that. So from that point of view, it's a case of allowing the data to actually come through and actually being able to make sensible responses. So with the automation, you can pick up on key diary, key points where you need to actually make decisions. They can actually drive your claim forward far more effectively and efficiently. There won't be obvious drop-offs where somebody's forgotten to do something because it's not in the system. And equally well, your customer can see that you're actually making those decisions when and if they should be done. So in that regard, we are asking the customer how to get the information. The customer can respond very quickly, and we can use those responses far more effectively. One of the issues that loss adjusters face quite often is the problem with not being able to actually get the information they need when they need it. With direct access to the customer, with direct access to suppliers and things like that, using AI, it makes it far more effective. So in those regards, we can actually deliver a far more effective product far more efficiently. Yeah, I've just realized that it's dropped off. The one thing that Insurtechs don't have is the legacy issues that we already exist within an insurance company, and they can actually look at things in a slightly different way. So in this regard, right, they don't come with the inherited culture that insurance companies already exist. Remember what we were saying about at the start, that only 22% of insurance companies feel that they're leading the field in the claims management side. And that's really partially down to the culture rather than anything else, right? We struggle to implement new ideas within our existing frameworks. Some of it's to do with legacy systems, some of it's to do with the global nature of our business, some of it's actually to do with our own inherent cultures. We're used to doing things the way we do them. Insurance is a risk-averse business. We will be risk-averse to change unless we fully appreciate the way we're doing it. For us, for example, Munich Re, we were struggling to implement cultural changes we've actually had to almost step outside of our comfort zone and introduce a new business unit called Munich Re Digital Partners, who have set up completely separately so that they could have a completely different culture attitude to innovation and innovative risk. And they're looking at that not only from a business perspective, but also a claims perspective. So they're looking to see how they can actually look at their claims in a slightly different way. And doing that, they're not encumbered by what we have done in the past. They are actually looking at it as to where they want to go in the future. And that's the difference. Insurtech and new AI companies are looking at where they want to go in the future rather than guided by the experience in the past. That means, what does it differ for these digital insurers? They want focus on front-end supply chain. They want to make sure that they are giving the customers what they want. They're worried more about social media than they are about anything else. Now, it's quite funny when you go into an existing adjuster and ask, how do you respond to low scores on social media? Most adjusters will go, sorry, what? How do we look at? We don't even look at social media, right? It's not something that concerns us. For these guys, it's everything they're about. I've got a new startup in Sweden, and they're monitoring based on FIFO scores, which are sort of star ratings. Anything below 3, they want to know why that's happened. Now, to them, that's a complaint, because if it's below 3, then the customer is not happy. Why is that customer not happy, and how can we respond to it? Now, that means from an adjuster point of view, suddenly you're having to look at different avenues where responses can be made and how you're going to actually respond to those. They have high customer focus. They are flexible in what they're offering. They're looking to change their models as to what they can offer. They're looking to bring in different supply chains and how they can work with those supply chains from a more AI basis than actually just turning up and picking up the phone, right? It's like, it's quite interesting actually. Somebody asked me the other day about, we need to fax people. And even I was like, what do you mean fax people? We never fax people anymore. And it's like, I don't even know what my fax number is anymore, right? And that's true. And it's an interesting thing, because you think about it, fax was, from about the 80s onwards, was seen as a very quick, efficient means. No longer. Nobody uses it anymore. And so therefore, you're now looking at how you're interacting, and it's like WhatsApp, how you use social media to interact, and also how you use the internet to obtain information from your suppliers to get information back. And that's what they're looking at. They're looking to actually add in back-end flexibility. So they're going to build in the supply chain to give them resolution in an automatic basis. And if they're going to work with TPAs, that's what they're going to look at. So any adjuster that is actually going to work with these people and want to work going forward, they've got to look at having that flexibility to actually build in these web links, web hookups and things like that in order to actually ensure that you've got that supply chain effectively managed. And they're going to look at low-cost alternatives. They're going to actually say your traditional model of what you do isn't going to work. Yes, we may need you, but we're not going to give you the basic work, because the basic work is going to be all AI driven. What we're going to look at is to give you the more complex work. Now, that's actually quite of interest to most adjusters, but also it means that you're going to have to look at how you price your model effectively, because that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be taking out the basic stuff because they can drive that from an AI perspective and give you the more complex stuff. So how can you work with insurers to achieve what needs to be done in this work? Process claims quicker and give customers control. This is what insurers want to see. This is what insurers want to see from this new world. They want to see how you can actually work within this value chain, how you can actually give the customers control, but also process the claims quicker, right? How you keep the customers in the loop, how you actually keep them advised of what's going on. I know some adjusters already have interactive claims handling ability. They actually, have, for example, Sedgwick's got their My Claims where you can actually follow that through and things like that. There's going to be an expectation that virtually every adjuster's going to be able to show insurers and customers, if necessary, what they're doing and when they're doing it. So it can be monitored, so that service level agreements will factor in key performance indicators so that you can show exactly what's going to be done, right? And they've got to be able to engage through their preferred channel. It's no longer just saying we're going to produce a report and send it to you. It may be that we're going to produce videos, we may produce, I don't actually know where we're going with this, actually, to be perfectly honest, because may be that you'll no longer produce, and this will hurt Paul, maybe you're not actually going to produce a written report at all. You may actually produce an interactive report showing actually basically something similar to the YouTube video I showed at the beginning, where you will actually basically have the loss adjuster doing an overall explanation on YouTube of what's going on, what's happened. I mean, be honest, this would be actually quite an impressive feat going forward. Instead of actually producing yet another paper document of 50 pages, you could actually basically produce a YouTube video where your customers can see it and show you what's happening on the scene at the factory or whatever's been burnt down, how you're going to deal with it, video conference with your suppliers as to what they're promised to do and when they're promised to do it. You can actually change the mode by which you're communicating with your with your insurers and your stakeholders. Now, I'm not saying this is actually going to happen, but let's be perfectly honest. I was talking about fax. Now, if you'd said 20 years ago faxes were just going to go out the window and we'd be doing something called Instagram or something like that, and we go, well, what are you talking about? You see, we've changed the mode by which we are communicating, right? Your entire communication is done now through your phone, right? If you think about it, the one item that you could not live without now is your mobile phone, right? Everything else, forget it, you could, if you've got your mobile phone, that's fine. If you've lost your mobile phone, you're devastated because that's the world, right? And that's where everybody's communicating. Now, if you think the next generation, they're not going to necessarily be reading reports. I deal with where we're going. And for me, any new policy has got to be readable via a mobile phone, because people aren't going to sit down and open up a bunch of documents and read it through like that. They're going to scan it on their way to work. Basically, people live and breathe via their mobile phone now. If you think about that's where we are now, where's the next generation going to be? And this is what insurers and adjusters have to think. How are you going to communicate going forward, not with who you're dealing with now, but the next generation? As said right at the start, 22% of insurers feel that they're leading the way with claims. That means 78% want to actually get there. In order to get there, they can't just catch up with the 22%. They've got to get ahead of them. To get ahead of them, they've got to look at where they go with this new Insurtech industry. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get ahead. So, strategies of success. Digital customers expect a digital response. If your customers are moving forward in the digital world, then you have to have a tailored solution to that. That means you can use the internet thing to achieve that. Now that means, for example, new connectivity within claims, how that's going to work effectively, how you can use that to reduce risk, but also how you can do that to actually appraise the customer of where you're going, right? They're looking now at customer retention, customer experience, customer satisfaction, and they're looking at it in new ways. Not the traditional, have you sent me the report? Is that report what I want? Has that ticked the box? It's all about how are we getting that feedback loop involving all the stakeholders, and how we manage that stakeholder expectation, and how are we using what we are bringing in more effectively and more efficiently, right? However, one word with this, there has to be a balance, because as much as we are guided by AI and the drive and the need for this, there is also the emotional intelligence that has to be used when you're dealing with customers. There has to be the right balance. And that's something adjusters can bring certainly into an experience, because customers do not necessarily fully understand and appreciate what's happening in a claim. And sometimes they need somebody with experience and knowledge and that ability to guide them through it. And they will want that personal experience. There are things that they will want to touch and just let it go, but there are times when they need somebody there to hold their hand and lead them through that experience. And getting the balance right is extremely important. Just having somebody put it into a computer is not the right answer all the time. And getting that balance right is so important for insurers, for adjusters, and making sure that the customer experience is a right experience, not just a quick experience. And so therefore, that balance and that need for the adjuster to still be there is critically important. So what I'm trying to say here is AI will be useful and will be necessary, and it will actually help adjusters move forward, but it cannot be the be-all and end-all of how adjusters move forward in the future. There has to be a balance between the flexibility and the process. Finally, any questions?